story I'm about to share with you, it's about something that happened to me and changed my life forever. Last fall, I rented a cabin in the woods for a few weeks. I went to this specific cabin every year. You see, I'm an artist, and I get a lot of inspiration from the environment around me. I live in a big city, so the quiet, unpolluted area was perfect for me to just chill out and draw. It truly was my favorite getaway from the city. I spent most of my days sitting on the covered front porch, sketching away. Past my easel, you could see trees that were glowing with shades of yellow, orange, and red. The sounds of their leaves rustling in the wind as they fell to the ground just put me in the mood to create. I really couldn't have been happier. Then, one morning, I decided to take a break from drawing and do something a little different. I had brought my camera with me, and I wanted to take some pictures of the beautiful fall foliage before it all fell to the ground. So, I grabbed it up, packed some water and snacks in my backpack, and headed out to the woods. It was a beautiful sunny day when I left the cabin that morning. The cool, fresh air was so much nicer than the smoggy city air I was used to breathing. So, I took my time walking through the woods, pausing every so often to snap a few pictures of leaves, birds, squirrels, honestly, anything of interest that caught my eye. Around lunchtime, though, things started to change. The wind was picking up, which made it feel a lot colder than it already was. Dark storm clouds were rolling in from the north, and the sky was turning gray. At this point, I would have rather been snuggling under a blanket by a crackling fire than out in the cold, cutting wind. So I put my camera in the backpack and headed back to the cabin. Luckily, I got back right before it was about to rain. I started up a fire, changed into my PJs, and made myself a cup of hot chocolate. Time to check out my pictures, I thought. So I grabbed my camera and started to casually flip through them. Honestly, I had gotten some pretty good shots, and as I scrolled through them, I couldn't help but think about what I would be drawing the next day. That thought was cut short, as something caught my eye and dragged me back to the present. It was a picture I had taken under the canopy of several trees. I distinctly remember taking the shot. I was looking up, and the sun was shining down through the branches and leaves of the trees. At the same time, I really couldn't see all that well, but I snapped the picture anyway, thinking, well, it'll be good or it'll be bad. Whatever. This is where things got weird. In the picture, I could see the faint silhouette of something up in the tree. I zoomed in on it, and upon looking closer, I could tell it was the silhouette of a person. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I thought I was the only person out there for miles around. Who was it? And why didn't they say anything to me? They had to know I was right below them, right? These thoughts and more ran through my head. After seeing that unsettling image, I just couldn't get it out of my mind. Enjoying the landscape, being creative, relaxing, well, that was just impossible now. I had to know who or what that was. Days later, I decided to go back into the woods and take some more pictures. As I was making my way back to the area where I had thought I had taken the shot of the mysterious figure, I passed the carcass of some kind of animal. It had been viciously killed. There was blood and fur strewn about, and what was left of the carcass appeared to be, chewed up is the best way I could describe it. A bear? I thought. After checking to make sure I had packed the bear spray in my backpack, I continued on the path. About an hour later, I had finally made it to my destination. I stood there, turning in circles and looking up at the canopy. Of course, I didn't see anything out of the ordinary, but I went ahead and took some more pictures anyway. Who knows, I thought. Maybe I'll catch something on the camera I can't see with my naked eye, like I did before. I took pictures until the battery on my camera got low, and then started to make my way back to the cabin. On my way back, I got a little lost. It took me a while, but I finally found my way back to the cabin. Interestingly, though, while I was lost, I passed by another cabin. I could have swore that when I rented the one I was staying in years ago, that the owner had told me that there were no other houses or cabins around for miles. I just assumed that since it had been such a long time since he had told me that maybe he had just built another one. I have to say, though, it was pretty rough looking, and there was no way I would have ever stayed in that one. So as soon as I got back to the cabin, I got the camera out of my backpack, plugged it into the charging station, and started scrolling through the pictures. Nothing. Not one thing. Just a bunch of pretty tree pictures. That's it. I'm not gonna lie. I was a little disappointed, to say the least. But it was getting late, and I was pooped for my long hike. So, I decided it was time to start keying down for the night. I got a fire going in the living room, slipped into my PJs, and made a nice hot bowl of ramen. After walking out in the cold all day, that really hit the spot. I had just finished my meal when I heard a sound outside the front door. It sounded like something was being dragged across the porch. I got up and slowly walked across the living room floor to see what the sound was, when another sound stopped me dead in my tracks. I heard what sounded like the chair from the front porch being thrown against the cabin wall. I was scared shitless. I couldn't move. I just froze right where I stood and listened. There were no other sounds after that, but I was too scared at this point to open the front door and look out. I eventually got up the nerve to walk over to the window and peek out of the curtain. I could see most of the porch, and just as I had thought, one of the front porch chairs was lying on its side. I noticed the wind was kicking up a little, and that did make me feel a bit more at ease. Obviously, the chair had gotten blown over. Feeling somewhat braver at this point, I decided to go outside, set the chair back up, and push everything on the porch a little closer to the cabin. That way the wind wouldn't scare the crap out of me again. When I walked out onto the front porch, I was met with the foulest smell I had ever smelt. I immediately covered my nose and looked around to see where it could be coming from. I didn't see anything. It was horrible. I don't even know how to describe it. I guess I would say it was kind of like rotting meat or something. It made me feel completely nauseous. I ran back inside and slammed the door shut. I didn't care if the wind blew everything off the porch to Timbuktu. I wasn't about to stay out there with that putrid smell. I swear, even after I got back inside, the smell was clinging to me. I had to get it off. So I took a quick shower and washed my hair. It worked. Thank God. After I got all clean, I got some chips and a soda from the kitchen and headed to bed. I thought I could calm my nerves by watching a movie before going to sleep. As I was laid back and watching the movie, trying to refocus on relaxing, I heard what sounded like something heavy dragging on the floor just outside my room. I muted the TV and listened carefully. It sounded like it was moving past my room and down the hallway. I moved as quietly over to the door as I could and put my ear against it to listen. The sound suddenly stopped. I stood there and listened for a while, but I never heard another peep. I decided to open the door and look out. I ever so slowly turned the doorknob and as quietly as possible opened the door just a crack to see outside. There was nothing there. I opened it a little wider and still nothing. Then all of a sudden, that horrible smell hit my nostrils again. It took me by surprise, and I jerked back, gasping for breath. What the hell is that smell? I thought. I had to know. Grabbing a shirt to cover my nose, I stepped cautiously out into the hallway to see what it was. It was dark, and the only light was the glow of the TV coming from my bedroom. I looked to the left, towards the living room, and I didn't see anything. I looked to the right, towards the bathroom, and that's when I saw her. It's like my mind took an instant snapshot of her. She was sickly, thin, and filthy, like she hadn't taken a bath her whole life. Her long hair hung down to her knees, greasy and tangled. Her skin was splotched with brown and red patches. The dress she wore was dirty and tattered, barely covering her frail frame. Her feet were covered with bloody sores, and she had broken chains hanging around her wrists. And the smell. Oh God, the smell. It was coming from her. She let out a blood-curdling scream as she bolted towards me. I panicked and ran back into the bedroom, slamming the door behind me. In my haste to run for safety, I didn't lock the door, and I could hear her as she came busting through it, right behind me. I didn't even take the time to look back. I ran to the window and tried to open it, but it was locked. As I fumbled with the lock, she jumped me from behind, and the force of her body slamming into mine sent us crashing through the window. We fell onto the hard ground outside, cut up by the shards of plate glass. She was screaming and clinging to me like some wild animal. I tried to push her off, but she was holding me so tight, I couldn't. We rolled across the yard as I struggled to get her off of me. It was no use. She was determined to hold me down. Finally, she pinned me to the ground. I lay on my back as she sat straddled on top of me. Her wide, almost frightened eyes were looking into mine, and she was screaming the most chilling scream I had ever heard. I closed my eyes, scared to death of what she was going to do to me. I thought I was going to die. Then all of a sudden, I felt her body weight just fly off of me. She was gone. I opened my eyes to see a giant man holding her up by the hair on the back of her head. She was screaming. No, more like she was crying loudly. Her arms and legs were flailing as she struggled to break free from his grip. I swear, she was reaching towards me as if she wanted me to help her. I was in shock. I didn't get up to run away. I didn't move a muscle. I just stared at the horror show that was playing before my eyes. That's when another man walked around from behind me. He squatted down beside me, stared deep into my eyes, put his finger to his lips, and all I heard from him was, "Shh." Right before I passed out, I saw the giant man walk past me, carrying the woman over his shoulder. She was still crying, screaming, and reaching out to me. That's when it hit me. She wasn't trying to hurt me. She was trying to get me to help her. But I didn't understand that until the moment right before I passed out. The light of the morning sun woke me up. I jumped up in a panic, gathered my stuff, and got the hell out of there. I went straight to the police station and told them what had happened before going back home. They told me they would check it out and let me know what they found. A couple of months later, I was back home trying to recover from the hellish nightmare I had been through when I got a call from the police. They told me that they went out to the cabin and saw the broken window, but not much else. I had told them about the other cabin I had seen in the woods when I got lost on my last hike, and they said they would also check it out. There, they found evidence that someone had been held captive. The cabin had a room in it where they found a dirty old cot, a bucket that was used as a toilet, and rusty broken chains attached to the wall. They said that they were able to collect some samples of hair and blood from the room, and after DNA analysis, found that it had belonged to a woman that had gone missing from a nearby town a few years ago. Unfortunately, there wasn't anybody at the cabin when they arrived, and a search of the surrounding woods turned up nothing. They told me that it was obvious whoever was holding her hostage there had taken her and fled. But if they ever found anything else out about her whereabouts, they would let me know. It's been over 3 years now, and I haven't heard back from them. I have this feeling in the pit of my stomach that I never will. I've always felt that, as an artist, I was a little more in tune with the world than most people, because I pay attention to the smallest details. But now, I know that's not true at all. I failed to see human suffering at its highest level, even when it was right in front of my face. The incident at that cabin has forever changed me. That woman is now and will always be a part of my life. I hope she found her escape. If not from her captors, then from life itself. I know she can't hear me when I say this, but I'm sorry.
Thank you for listening. For more stories, check out the rest of the channel. You know you want to.